What would you do if the person who stole your voice was standing 3 feet away from you and she had no idea you were watching? 12 million people were about to find out. The live stream was already rolling when Harper Vale leaned into a microphone she thought was off and whispered, "Fail quietly, sweetheart, or I'll erase you." The woman holding the mop heard every word. Orchard Hall sparkled like a jewelry box that November night. The Voices for Hearts charity gala. Harper Vale's foundation. Harper's cameras. Harper's stage. Champagne flowed in crystal glasses. Photographers circled like sharks. Donors smiled their $1,000 smiles. And in the shadows backstage, wedged between the sound booth and forgotten storage boxes, Emma Carter scrubbed at a coffee stain that refused to lift. Faded work pants, oversized polo, hair pulled back tight. She'd perfected the art of being invisible. That's exactly what she needed to survive here. Her hands moved in practiced circles, scrub, rinse, wring, repeat. The motions kept her thoughts quiet, kept the memories at bay. If she focused on the stain, she didn't have to think about the rent due in 3 days. Didn't have to think about Mia's medical bills stacking up like accusations on her kitchen counter. Didn't have to remember the last time she'd stood in front of a microphone and believed her voice mattered. Then something made her freeze. Behind the velvet curtain, Harper Vale was rehearsing. The signature note. The one that made her famous. The one that had been on the radio for 5 years. The sound started strong, climbed higher, then cracked. Splintered like breaking glass, but the speakers overhead. They kept singing. Perfect. Flawless. Impossible. Emma's hand went still on the mop handle. Her heart began to pound in a rhythm she recognized. The rhythm of recognition, of betrayal, of a truth she'd buried so deep she'd almost convinced herself it never happened. She knew that sound. The sound of a lie dressed up as perfection. Because 5 years ago in a studio that smelled like coffee and desperation, she'd been the one singing that note. She'd been the one Harper Vale had borrowed, had taken, had never given back. That's when Harper turned around. Their eyes met through a gap in the curtain, and for one impossible second, Emma saw something she never expected on a superstar's face. Not anger, fear, pure raw fear. Harper walked onto the stage, lifted her microphone, and without even glancing at the cheering audience, said 5 words that made Emma's blood turn to ice. "Emma Carter, come up here." She'd never told Harper her name. She'd never spoken to her. So how did Harper Vale know exactly who she was? And more importantly, what else did she know? 6 months before that heartwarming nightmare began, Emma sat in a different kind of waiting room, one that smelled of antiseptic and fear. The pediatric surgeon's voice was gentle but unflinching. "Mia's heart valve isn't keeping pace with her growth. We can repair it, but we need to schedule within 10 days, or we lose our surgical window. After that, her condition could deteriorate rapidly." Emma looked down at her little sister. 8 years old, small for her age. Mia was coloring a picture of a cardinal tongue poking out in concentration, oblivious to the medical verdict hovering above her head. "What's the cost?" Emma asked, though she already knew the answer would hurt. $70,000 total. Insurance covers 38. You'd need 32,000 out of pocket to secure the operating room. Emma had 11,000. 4 years of double shifts, skipped meals, and boots held together with duct tape. 10 days, she smiled at the doctor. Took Mia's small, cold hand. Walked to their car that took 3 tries to start. That night, kneeling beside Mia's bed, Emma sang the way their mother used to, a wordless lullaby that rose and fell like breathing. She watched Mia's chest rise and fall, counting each breath like a prayer. Some nights when the fear was too much, Emma would stay there for hours, just watching, just making sure her sister was still breathing. Still here. Still safe. "You sound like an angel," Mia whispered. Emma kissed her forehead, tasted salt from her own tears. "Angels don't worry about rent, sweetheart." "Maybe you're a different kind of angel," Mia said, already half asleep. "The kind that stays." Emma stayed until Mia's breathing deepened into real sleep. Then she went to the kitchen and stared at the bills spread across the table. $32,000. She did the math again, hoping somehow the numbers would change. They never did. This shy girl cleaning floors hadn't always been invisible. 5 years ago, Emma Carter stood before conservatory judges and sang an aria that made a stranger cry. A music producer told her she possessed the kind of voice people would pay anything to hear. She believed the world held a place for her beyond the shadows. That was before the contract. Before the recording session that lasted 12 hours. Before she sang until her throat was raw and her voice was hoarse. And they told her it was perfect. It was magic. It was going to change everything. Before a lawyer named Olivia Grant slid a non-disclosure agreement across a conference table and said, "Sign here. You'll thank us later." Emma was 24. Her mother had just died of heart failure, leaving behind medical bills that arrived like small, relentless punishments. The producer called the demo just a formality, a test run. They promised to call back. They never did. 6 months later, Emma heard her own voice on the radio, a song she'd never released under a name that wasn't hers. She'd been buying groceries when it happened. Frozen in the cereal aisle while her own voice sang from the overhead speakers. A woman next to her had said, "I love Harper Vale. She's so talented." Emma had dropped the box of cereal and walked out, leaving her cart in the middle of the store. When she tried to speak up, Olivia called it a misunderstanding, then a legal liability, then stopped returning calls entirely. Emma learned something brutal that year. When you have no money and no power, your voice doesn't just get stolen, it gets erased, and fighting back only gets you buried deeper. She stopped singing in public, stopped auditioning, stopped believing justice was anything more than a word people used to sleep better at night. The janitorial position at Orchard Hall was steady quiet and required no performance. It was perfect for someone who wanted to disappear. Dottie Lane had worked wardrobe for 30 years. She'd been a lounge singer once, back when Nashville lounges still mattered. Now she hemmed costumes and kept peppermint tea in her apron pocket. She found Emma in the storage room one Tuesday evening, humming while folding tablecloths. "That's a tricky interval," Dottie observed. "Most singers flatten it without realizing." Emma flinched mid-note. "Sorry. I didn't know anyone could hear." "Don't apologize for having a gift, honey." Emma folded another cloth eyes down. "It's not much of a gift if nobody hears it." Dottie settled onto a stack of crates, studied Emma the way you'd study a painting in a museum, looking for what was hidden beneath the surface. "You know what I've learned in 30 years? The people who stop singing usually stop because someone convinced them their voice was the problem." She paused. "But the voice is never the problem. It's the people who were afraid of what that voice could do." Emma's hands stilled on the fabric. Nobody had talked to her like this in years, like she was someone worth understanding. "I used to sing," Emma said quietly, the words barely escaping. "It didn't end well." Dottie nodded knowingly, her eyes soft with recognition. She'd seen too many talented people broken by an industry that chewed up dreams and spit out silence. "You sing like you're keeping someone alive. I hope they know how lucky they are." Emma thought of Mia, of the surgery date circled in red marker, of the impossible sum standing between her sister and survival, Of all the nights she'd sung Mia to sleep, willing her voice to be enough, to be medicine, to be magic. I don't perform anymore. Dottie stood, brushed off her skirt, but paused at the door. Maybe not, but you still sing. That counts for something. Some people lose their voice when they stop performing. You just took yours underground. And honey, voices like that don't stay buried forever. The night of the gala, Emma accepted an extra shift. Overtime, paid time and a half. Every dollar mattered. She didn't know Harper Vale would perform. Didn't know the woman whose voice had replaced hers had built an empire on stolen sound. Didn't know that within an hour, 12 million people would watch her life crack open under stage lights in what should have been an inspirational moment for charity, but became something else entirely. She was simply doing her job, mopping floors in the background, counting the hours until she could go home and check on Mia. Until she heard a voice crack in the darkness behind a curtain. And everything this shy girl had buried for 5 years came rushing back to confront the woman who'd taken it. Harper Vale didn't walk toward Emma. She glided, every movement choreographed for the cameras that followed her like devoted satellites. Ladies and gentlemen, Harper's voice dripped warmth, the sound of someone who'd never heard the word no. We have a special guest, Emma Carter, one of the dedicated people who keeps this beautiful theater running. The applause was polite, confused. Emma's heart hammered so violently, she worried the microphones might capture it. Harper extended her hand, smile radiant. Come up, sweetheart. Don't be shy. Emma's legs moved before her brain could stop them. Years of conditioning, obedience, the survival instinct of someone who'd learned that refusing powerful people only multiplied the pain. She climbed the stage steps. The lights were blinding. Somewhere in the darkness, a phone camera clicked. Harper draped an arm around Emma's shoulders, pulled her close, then lips near the microphone, but eyes locked on Emma. She whispered, "You think you saw something. You didn't. And if you try saying otherwise, I'll make sure even your little sister forgets you existed." The live stream caught every syllable. Emma went rigid, ice flooding her veins. Harper released her, stepped back, and laughed like champagne bubbles. Emma's a bit starstruck, aren't you, honey? In the VIP section, Nathan Reed set down his glass. He'd been half listening, more interested in the broadcast technology than the performance itself. ReedWave provided the live stream infrastructure, the mixing boards, the real-time software that made global events possible. He attended as professional courtesy, a networking checkmark. But that whisper, he'd heard it clearly. Not because of proximity, because ReedWave's system included a feature most people didn't know existed: a live audio monitor flagging unusual vocal patterns. Threats, panic, distress. His phone buzzed. Threat language detected. Timestamp 20:34:17. He looked up at the shy girl in the work uniform standing beside Harper Vale like prey caught in headlights. He opened his laptop. Emma wanted to vanish, wanted to dissolve into the walls where she'd hidden for 4 years. But Harper kept talking, kept smiling, kept the room captive. Now Emma. Harper said, false kindness coating every word. I understand you have thoughts about live performance, about authenticity. She pronounced it like a punchline. Why don't you demonstrate what real singing looks like? Uncertain laughter rippled through the audience. Was this part of the show? Emma's throat sealed shut. She couldn't breathe, much less sing. Harper leaned in again, voice meant only for Emma's ears. Walk away now and keep your job, or open your mouth and lose everything that matters. Your choice. For a heartbeat, Emma almost surrendered, almost let it go, almost convinced herself survival trumped truth. Then she remembered Mia saying that morning, "You're the bravest person I know." Emma wasn't brave. She was terrified. But maybe courage was just terror that refused to retreat. She inhaled slowly, looked past Harper to the sound booth where a technician watched her with something like concern. "Can we turn off the backing track?" Emma's voice emerged quiet but steady. "Just one chorus. Only the live microphone." Harper's smile froze in place. "Excuse me," Harper said louder, playing to the crowd. "You want to critique professional sound engineering." "I want," Emma said, finding strength she'd forgotten she possessed, "to hear what we actually sound like, without digital assistance." Silence crashed over the hall. Nathan stood, walked toward the sound booth. Every head swiveled to follow him. "Who are you?" Harper called out, warmth evaporating from her voice. "Nathan Reed, Reedwave Technologies. We're managing your live stream tonight." He reached the console, leaned toward the sound director. "Miles, cut the pre-recorded vocal track. Leave only the live mic feed." Miles looked between Nathan and Harper, hand hovering uncertainly over the controls. "Do it," Nathan said quietly. The track died. Silence. Harper cleared her throat, smiled at the audience. "This is absurd." "Then it should be simple," Emma said. Harper shot her a look that could strip paint. But the cameras were rolling. 12 million viewers were watching. Backing down now would be admission itself. She sang. No safety net. No digital perfection. The first verse held steady. Slightly breathy, but acceptable. The second verse wavered. When she reached the signature high note, the note that had sold millions of records, her voice cracked, slipped, broke into something small and startlingly human. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Emma stood motionless, not gloating, simply waiting. Harper's face flushed. "Technical difficulties. The acoustics in this venue..." "The acoustics are perfect," Emma interrupted gently. "Using studio support is normal. Session singers, vocal layering, that's standard industry practice. But claiming those voices as exclusively your own, that's not normal. That's theft." The hall erupted in murmurs, the sound of a carefully constructed narrative shattering in real time. Harper stared at Emma, truly seeing her for the first time. "Who are you?" Emma met her gaze without flinching. What should have been an inspirational charity moment had become something far more important, a reckoning. "I'm the voice you never paid for." The words hung in the air like a verdict. Harper's face went white. The cameras captured everything. The live stream chat exploded. And somewhere in the audience, people began pulling out their phones, recording their own evidence. Backstage, Emma's hands trembled uncontrollably. She'd done it. Spoken truth to power. The world hadn't ended, but the consequences were just beginning. Harper had fled the stage in a blur of fury and designer fabric. The audience buzzed with confusion and revelation. Phones captured everything. The live stream chat scrolled faster than anyone could read. Emma slipped out the side exit before questions she couldn't answer found her. She was peeling off her work gloves when Nathan Reed appeared. "That was either the most courageous or most reckless thing I've witnessed," he said. Emma laughed shakily. "Definitely reckless." He studied her, not looking through her like most people did, but actually seeing her. "You mentioned a demo on stage." Emma's stomach dropped. "I shouldn't have said that. I signed legal documents. Just mentioning it could..." "Tell me anyway." She looked at this stranger in an expensive suit who had no logical reason to care about a janitor's 5-year-old grievance. "Why would you want to know Because ReadWave didn't just provide tonight's live stream. 3 years ago, we acquired an audio archive from my father's company. If someone used our systems to bury your work, I need to understand what happened. Emma sank onto a storage crate. The words felt dangerous, but also necessary, like lancing an infected wound. 5 years ago, I recorded 3 songs. They said it was just internal review. One was called Fading Light. They promised callbacks. She swallowed hard. 2 weeks later, my mother died. I was drowning in medical debt. When I finally followed up, they said the project was canceled. A month after that, I heard Fading Light on the radio. Different lyrics. Harper Vale's name. But my voice. My exact phrasing. My runs. Everything. Nathan's jaw tightened. Did you fight it? I tried. A lawyer named Olivia Grant appeared at my apartment with legal threats. Said I'd signed away rights to any derivative works. I didn't even remember that clause. She said if I pushed back, they'd countersue for breach of contract and defamation. I'd lose everything I had left. Emma studied her scarred hands. So I stayed quiet. Found work where nobody would ask me to sing. Tried to forget I'd ever had a voice worth stealing. Nathan was silent for a long moment. Then he opened his laptop. Do you remember the studio name Apex Sound, Nashville? His fingers flew across the keyboard database searches file directories, code Emma didn't understand. Then he stopped cold. Something from the demo. Anything. Emma hesitated. Then barely above a whisper, she hummed the opening phrase of Fading Light. Nathan's face went pale. He turned the screen toward her. A waveform file. The label read E. Carter Demo, Fading Light, WAV. Timestamp 5 years, 3 months ago. This is in our archive, Nathan said quietly. Apex Sound was acquired by my father's company in 2020. When we merged databases, everything transferred, including this. Emma stared at the file, her own name buried in a server proof she'd existed, that she'd created, that she hadn't imagined. Everything. Can you play it? He clicked. Her voice filled the small room. Younger, raw, unmistakably hers. In the metadata, a note approved for commercial licensing. Artist waived performance credit per NDA clause 12.4. Emma's vision blurred. I didn't understand what I was signing. I know. Nathan closed the laptop, met her eyes with something that looked like guilt mixed with determination. If this happened under my company's name even before I took over, fixing it is my responsibility. You can't fix this, Emma whispered. The legal agreements are only enforceable if made in good faith. If they misrepresented terms, exploited your situation, used your work without proper compensation, there are multiple grounds to challenge them. He paused. But it won't be easy. Harper Vale has lawyers' money, a publicity machine that could bury you in negative headlines before you reach any courtroom. Emma thought of Mia. The surgery deadline. The $32,000 still impossibly out of reach. I can't afford a legal battle. I can. Nathan's voice was rock steady. But understand something crucial. This isn't me rescuing you. This is me backing you up while you save yourself. You'll need to testify. Go public. Face people who'll call you a liar, an opportunist, worse. Emma looked at him, this stranger who'd cut a microphone because she'd asked who'd searched a database because he believed her, who was offering something she'd stopped believing existed a genuine chance. Why are you helping me? Nathan was quiet, then. I spent my entire life building systems to amplify voices. The first time I truly understood how those systems could be weaponized, you were standing on a stage getting threatened in front of 12 million people. If I walk away from that, every line of code I've written becomes meaningless. Emma's hands still trembled. but when she spoke, her voice rang clear. Okay. You're sure? Yes, let's do this. Nathan extended his hand, not to shake, just there. A choice, not a demand. Emma took it. For the first time in 5 years, this shy girl stopped hiding from the truth. The video went viral in 18 minutes. Not the polished gala footage Harper's team had carefully crafted. The raw live stream clip, Harper's voice cracking Emma's quiet accusation, 12 million witnesses to a lie unraveling in real time. By sunrise, Tarachater Voices for Hearts was trending, but not the way Harper's publicity team had envisioned. 3 days later, Olivia Grant appeared at Emma's apartment door, exactly as Emma remembered. Tailored suit, leather briefcase, a smile that looked professionally applied. Emma. She said it like they were old colleagues. We should talk. Emma didn't open the door wider. I have nothing to say. That's unfortunate. Olivia opened her briefcase with practiced precision, withdrew a document. My client is prepared to offer you a substantial settlement. $200,000. Immediate payment. You simply sign a statement saying you were mistaken about the demo recordings, that you misunderstood the contract terms, and that Harper Vale has never used your work improperly. Emma stared at the paper, at the number that would save Mia. Pay for the surgery. Erase 4 years of financial terror with a single signature. And if I refuse, Olivia's smile thinned to a razor edge. We file defamation charges, tortious interference. We'll contact every hospital in Nashville and inform them you're a legal liability. We'll send formal notifications to any charitable foundation considering your sister's case. By the time you finish fighting, there won't be anything left worth fighting for. Emma's fists clenched. You're threatening a child's medical care. I'm protecting my client's reputation. Olivia held out an expensive pen. This is the intelligent choice, Emma. Accept the money, move forward. Let your sister live. For one terrible, desperate moment, Emma nearly took it. Then, Nathan's voice came from behind her. Or she could make the choice that doesn't cost her integrity. Olivia turned her professional mask, never slipping. Mr. Reed, I wasn't aware Emma had retained legal counsel. She hasn't. I'm here as a witness. He looked at Emma. You can sign that. I can't stop you. But you should know exactly what you'd be signing away. Emma looked between them. What do you mean? I pulled metadata on every file in the Apex archive, Nathan said calmly. Your voice isn't only on Fading Light. It appears on 6 other tracks. Background vocals, harmonies, signature runs Harper's been claiming for years. I found session logs showing you were paid $300 total as a work-for-hire contractor, while those songs generated over $14 million in revenue. He showed her his phone screen, a detailed spreadsheet. If you sign that document, you're not just surrendering your claim to those songs. You're giving up your right to ever prove they were yours. Olivia's expression hardened. That information is proprietary. It's evidence, Nathan said evenly. And it's about to become public. I've already sent copies to 3 investigative journalists in the Tennessean. Your move. Olivia looked at Emma. You're making a serious mistake. Emma thought of Mia, the surgery. How her sister had looked at her yesterday and said, I'm proud of you. She thought of their mother who died still believing fairness existed. She thought of every person ever silenced because they couldn't afford to fight. Maybe, Emma said, but it's my mistake to make. Olivia snapped her briefcase shut. You'll regret this decision. Probably. Emma straightened, met Olivia's eyes without wavering. But at least I'll regret it as myself. When the door closed, Emma collapsed onto her couch, trembling. Nathan sat beside her, maintaining respectful distance. I can't afford a trial, Emma whispered. You won't need to. Harper's Foundation is under investigation. The IRS is auditing the charity's finances. And as of this morning, 3 other session singers have come forward with similar stories. Emma looked up sharply. Why now? Nathan's expression softened into something almost like pride. Because you went first. Because sometimes all it takes is one person refusing to stay silent. 4 months later, Emma stood in a different kind of light. Not a stage, not a courtroom. A hospital room where Mia slept peacefully, her chest rising and falling in the steady rhythm Emma had learned to listen for, like prayer. The surgery had been successful, not because of Harper's hush money, because a legitimate, transparent foundation, one with actual oversight and genuine mission, had covered the costs after Emma's story went public. What had seemed like a nightmare had transformed into something unexpectedly heartwarming. Nathan had been right. Once one person spoke, others found courage. Sienna Brooks, Marcus Chen, Delilah Grant, 5 session singers total, all of whom had signed away their voices for pennies, while Harper built an empire on stolen sound. Harper Vale's record label suspended her contract indefinitely. The Voices for Hearts Foundation faced federal investigation. Olivia Grant was under review for potential professional misconduct, and Emma was still learning how to exist without hiding. Nathan knocked softly on the hospital room door. He'd been careful these past months, never overstepping, never assuming rights to her space, her time, her gratitude. "Hey," he said. "Hey." He held out a keycard. Studio access, Reed Wave's private recording suite. Emma took it, turned it over in her hands. "What's this for?" "A space, no contracts, no legal documents, nobody listening who shouldn't be." He paused. "Just a safe place. Whenever you're ready." Emma studied the card. "I don't know if I can sing anymore. Not the way I used to." "Good," Nathan said. "Because the person you used to be was singing for people who didn't deserve it. Maybe now you can sing for yourself, or for Mia, or for whoever you choose." She looked up at him, this man who'd believed her when belief was the riskiest thing he could offer. An inspirational story didn't always look the way people expected. "Why did you really do all this?" she asked. Nathan was quiet then. "I built a company to amplify voices. The first time I realized how easily that power could become a weapon, it was being aimed at you. Walking away would have made me complicit, and I couldn't." He stopped, started again. "I couldn't live with that." Emma stepped closer. "That's not the complete reason." He met her eyes. "No, it's not." "Then what is?" "Because when I saw you on that stage, terrified, alone, refusing to back down, even though surrender would have been easier, I realized I'd spent my whole life building systems while forgetting the point of those systems was protecting people like you. If I couldn't do that, then what was any of it for?" Emma smiled. A real smile, the first in years. She took his hand gently. Mia stirred in her sleep, smiled without waking. "Thank you," Emma whispered. "You don't need to thank me. You did this." "I know." She squeezed his hand. "But I'm going to anyway." Outside the window, sunset painted everything gold. And for the first time in 5 years, this shy girl believed tomorrow might be worth singing for.